Hello everyone, this is Second Lieutenant Jose Aguilar from 2nd Bridge Platoon. Um, I'm going to be giving you guys the brief on cultural awareness. So this is one of the mandatory briefs that we're required to do, and it's important. So our objective, you guys can read it here, but I'll read it out loud if you're more of an audio learner, just understanding how increased cultural awareness enables individuals to adapt effectively in cross-cultural environments in order to enhance mission effectiveness. We got a couple keywords there like cross-cultural environments, mission effectiveness, cultural awareness, and we'll be covering those within the brief. What I want you to do right now is to pause this YouTube video to watch this YouTube video, which should be available to you in your Google Classroom or whatever setting your platoon leader slash platoon sergeant slash section leaders gave it out to you. And then watch this video and unpause me, and then we can have a little mini discussion. Okay, I assume if you're now watching this video that you have viewed this YouTube video that is in this slide, which you can get access to from the actual slideshow, or however format that your leaders have put it to you. Now, my key takeaway from the video is there's a lot of different people, obviously, with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different, it wasn't even just cultural, but I'd say just kind of different things that make them unique as a person. And of course, it's important for us to work together and use these unique differences that we have to our advantage. But yeah, I wonder what you thought about the video. I kind of wish we could do this in person. So anyways, here's a quick overview of the main concepts that we're going to be covering in this brief. First up is the concept of culture. The second concept is cultural awareness or cross-cultural competency, one of those key words that we saw in the mission of this brief. Then we're going to follow up with race and ethnicity and OMB, race and ethnic groups. First up, what we have here is this idea, the concept of culture. Culture is physical or material objects, as well as non-material attitudes, beliefs, customs, lifestyle, and values shared by members of a society and transmitted to the next generation. I'm not going to lie, I don't actually know Vincent Perillo, Stranger to These Shores, or Perillo, I don't know how it's pronounced, but I think that's a pretty good summation of what culture could be. All of us are a part of a culture, maybe from your country of origin. For example, I have my Mexican culture and my Filipino culture, that I, have a certain lifestyle, I have certain attitudes based off of this stuff that is passed down by members of my society from generation to generation. But we are also all a part of a military culture, so it doesn't necessarily have to include country of origin or race. It can be something that is created as well. So we all live a certain type of lifestyle because we're in the military as well. Concepts of culture, there's a couple of attributes of culture, so systems of shared beliefs, values, customs, behaviors, artifacts, learned through enculturation, so that's a big part, the learning process of culture, shared by members of a society, no culture of one, pattern, changeable, that's a big thing. Culture can be one way and then be changed in another way. It's one of the big parts of what you're going to learn about in the Army, or you've probably been in the Army a long time as well, because everyone's watching this brief. But yeah, we're really responsible for creating a healthy culture and a productive culture and a safe culture within the Army. We'll go from place to place, and it's important for us to realize that while we are just a cog in the machine, our contributions to the culture of the Army do matter, and we are responsible for the culture of the Army. Finally, it's internalized. Also, concept of culture. Understanding other cultures is critical to mission effectiveness. They have some points of why this is, but I'd kind of like you guys to think about why do you think that this is important? Why is it important to understand other people's cultures? And then you guys can also read these things below as well. Cross-cultural competency. So we're on to, I believe this is the second major point of this kind of mission brief. And one of the key words that we saw within the overall mission for this brief. So cultural competence. the ability to interact effectively with people of different cultures and socioeconomic backgrounds, particularly in the context of human resources, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies, whose employees work with persons from different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. This is one of the things I really like about the Army. You have a huge opportunity to work with people from much different backgrounds, much different ways of life. But although this opportunity is good, it is important to be aware of other people's cultures so that you're able to interact with them effectively and productively. Concept of culture. Here we go, cultural awareness. Cultural awareness leads to an understanding of how a person's culture can inform their values, behavior, beliefs, basic assumptions. That's one of the key takeaways you want to make. Cultural awareness recognizes that we are all shaped by our cultural background, which influences how we interpret the world around us, as well as perceive ourselves and relate to other people. And finally, this is the big thing I want you guys to take away, because this might sound like a lot, is you don't have to be an expert in every culture or have all the answers to be culturally aware. You're not going to. Like, no one knows everything about every culture, obviously. But cultural awareness helps you explore cultural issues with a level of curiosity and sensitivity. That's the main thing you got to remember. Okay. Continuing on with cross-cultural competence, culturally competent individuals enable the DoD to attract and retain high-quality workers of diverse ethnic or cultural backgrounds. Increasing one's cultural awareness provides, it lists multiple benefits. And it's important to get people from different backgrounds and different cultures, because they can offer unique insights to how to problem solve certain issues that we can all run into in the Army. And you also don't just, like, in general, don't want to drive away people based off of their culture or their background, because you're not being very culturally competent. Because we want the best people to be in the best type of job. So we don't want to we want it to be a meritocracy where we include everyone that has those types of things that they need to accomplish their job. And we need to do that by being culturally competent and not drive away people from certain types of backgrounds. Okay, cross-cultural competence. This refers to knowledge, skills, and affect motivation that enables individuals to adapt effectively in cross-cultural environments. Cross-cultural competence is defined here as an individual capability that contributes to intercultural effectiveness, regardless of particular intersection of culture. Although some aspects of cognition, behavior, or affect may be particularly relevant in a specific country or region, evidence suggests that a core set of competencies enables adaptation to any culture. So here we go on the actual, what kind of practical skills or knowledge can you take away from this lesson? This is a lot, but what are you going to be doing about it? What can you physically take away and act upon? So culturally competent individuals have a set of cultural general knowledge, skills, abilities, and attitudes, which we'll go over, developed through education, training, and experience. Experience is going to be a big one as well. Culturally competent leaders and soldiers adapt and act effectively in cross-cultural environments, as that would make sense, as we saw earlier. And then a little more. Increased cross-cultural competencies allow leaders the ability to quickly and accurately comprehend and act in culturally complex environments. Yes. Cross-cultural management. So why is this important? Kind of going in on it again. We discussed this before, but you guys can read some of these things as well. Cross-cultural management minimizes worker alienation, costly discrimination, unnecessary termination, and managers' reluctance to hire or work with culturally diverse workers. And again, you don't want to drive away any segment of your population. You want everyone to have an opportunity to do the job. Make sure that the best people are doing the job. Inadequate cultural competencies can impact sexism, racism, and other forms of discrimination, which result from interpretations of the behaviors of others. So it's actually important to be cross-culturally competent and have cultural competency, because, again, speaking of culture, we want to make sure that the Army has a good culture. And you hear stories online and the internet, unfortunately, about some of the negative things that the Army has, some of the negative aspects of Army culture. So it's our responsibility during our time in the Army to try to promote a change and kind of be able to highlight and be able to point to more positive examples of positive Army culture. These are all things that do not belong in the Army, obviously. So, navigating cultural differences can present operational, strategic, and tactical challenges to our foes. So here we go on like the practical skills and ideas that you should take away. Self. It is important to understand your own beliefs and personal and cultural values as one way of appreciating multicultural identities. So yeah, take some time for yourself and think about the culture of yourself, specifically the values of your culture. Again, it can come from your country of origin, if you're like really connected to like families abroad, but it can also just kind of refer to maybe the culture of your job, the culture of your own family, your nuclear family, and also the culture of the army as well. All things that make up your own culture. So unit/joint agency. In order to communicate, cooperate, or lead such teams, one must have the cross-cultural competence to work with and lead individuals who are different from themselves. Again, we'll get on to how you can do that a little bit more. And then coalition/host nation, effective coordination and integration of these commands depends upon understanding and addressing differences effectively to create a truly integrated team. Here's another thing we haven't really covered, but cross-cultural competency is incredibly important in an organization such as the Army. You never know when you're going to be working with another nation in like some sort of like coalition or joint nation action somewhere abroad or even at home. So yeah, that's another reason. Not just being able to be cross-culturally competent of other nations' armies as well. Adversary, lack of cultural knowledge about the adversary can have grave consequences for military warfighters, civilians, and our nation as a whole. This is a huge one. I'm a history teacher, and you can kind of see this throughout history. I don't know if we have any history buffs out there, but the whole Pancho Villa expedition that the U.S. got into before World War I, we kind of failed to achieve our strategic objective due to a lack of cultural knowledge. A more common example that most of us would know, and I'm not saying that this is like, I'm glad that it happened this way, but like Hitler had a lack of cultural knowledge of the Ukrainians when he invaded Russia during World War II. That definitely had dire consequences, thank goodness, for his strategic and even tactical objectives in his whole Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany versus USSR campaign. So that's a really big one we want to take away. And here are the actual strategies. Here we go. Here's the heart of the argument. So be aware of your own cultural influences. We covered that earlier. Be aware of judging others' people's behaviors and beliefs according to the standards of your own culture. Some people think differently based off of their culture, so it's important not to weigh everyone based off of your own standards. Be aware of making assumptions about cultural influences and applying generalizations to individuals. Stereotyping is never good, obviously. Understanding that the behavior and beliefs of people within each culture can vary considerably. So just because someone's a part of a certain culture doesn't mean they're all going to act or have the same belief system. We all form our own ethical belief systems as well, kind of individually. And then understand that the extent to which people adopt practices of their new country and retain those from their cultural background can vary within communities, even within families. Awesome. So we're going to stop the video here, and then I'll do a part 2 of the brief. But I want you guys to think about these strategies before you watch the next video. Maybe write down some tangible things, because these are like generalized comments, but maybe write down some tangible things that you can do yourself to increase cultural awareness. So goodbye for now. You're probably going to take about like 5-7 minutes. I don't know. However long you want to take. Just make sure you get all the briefs done today. But however long you want to take. You think of strategies for yourself for strategies to increase cross-cultural awareness, and then we'll come back together, and then I'll continue on and finish the second half of the brief. Thanks for your time. See you guys soon.